Live, okay.
Okay. Calling the meeting of the Board of Selectmen open. We will please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna 6 feet away and speaking. I'm gonna take this off so that I can be understood. So we're in quite a pickle. And I think what we're going to do for today's meeting is I'd like to have the town manager, Dennis Simmons, first start off with giving us the information that he got from the legal experts. He consulted 2 different firms, and let's start off with him giving us all the information so that we know what we're talking about and we can see where we can go from there. Does that sound reasonable? Lovely. Okay, Dennis, you go right ahead and fill us in on what you found out.
Okay. So, first of all, I would like to start off by saying I've had some phone calls, emails, and other comments. There was comments in the paper today that this was done as an underhanded way to defund the rec department. And I want people to know right up front that that was absolutely no way this was what this is about. This is simply a printing error on the ballot and nothing more. And then I did have a couple of people ask.
I don't know if our mics are on. Did you turn the thing on?
Yeah, turn it off, yeah. And then I did have a couple of people ask me today if we could operate under the old budget that we have been operating under, and because we haven't approved a final budget for this year, the answer to that question is no. We can't continue to operate off last year's funds. And so, to think that one little word has caused such an upheaval would be unreal. But this came to my attention last night, just as I was headed up to the select board meeting. We got an email from a citizen who noticed that the wording of the ballot for the Parks and Rec department dropped off the word raise. Instead of raise and appropriate, it just said appropriate. And she wanted to know if that was actually now a legal question. And so I called MMA before I headed up to the meeting last night to get an answer from them. He actually did call back while we were in the meeting, basically saying no, it's not legal, and you're going to have now a problem with your tax commitment. Do not go ahead and commit your taxes. I tried to call him back last night, but I couldn't get a hold of him. I was here this morning early at 8:01. I was on the phone dealing with MMA and our attorney at Bernstein Shore, so that I had 2 different opinions. And both of them were very adamant that the way that question was worded, because we did not raise the funds for the Parks and Rec department, no money was raised for them, therefore no money can be spent on them. And they both advised me very strongly that meant now that we are aware of this problem, we can't continue to spend funds up there. It would be inappropriate. And so that was the advice that came out this morning, was to shut it down. Don't spend any more money on it. Henceforth, the reason that I did make that decision after I did talk with Pam. The mistake that I made, however, and I will own this, is that I did not communicate with Dwayne ahead of time. I was just trying to move very quickly on this. And when I got up to the rec department to discuss this with him, there were a bunch of kids up there running around that weren't going to have any place to go if we shut this down today. And so we agreed to leave it open for regular hours and continue through the day. So whatever legal ramifications there are from that, I will take those on my own shoulders. So I've talked with both of them as to how do we solve this problem. And the way to solve the problem is we need to revote on the article. That's just, it's simply the way it is. How can we do that quickly is an issue, because to hold a special town meeting to do this, we have to legally give 7 days notice. So we can't hold the town meeting any quicker than within 7 days. That's the law. So how do we fund it in the meantime? So we ran through several different scenarios as to what we could do to find some funds to keep this going. The problem we run into is we cannot take money from other departments to fund this. Those funds are for those departments and those departments only. We got into this discussion because the revenue of the rec center actually does generate some of its own revenue. If we could just use the revenue generated to keep it open until we get to the town vote. And the problem with that is the revenue is just not coming in as fast as the expenses are. He's already upside down in the hole with that right now. And so all of these options that I give you are fine if the budget passes, but if this budget fails, they put us in a deeper hole. So the question is which hole is going to be the least. So bear that in mind going forward. So that option was kind of taken off the table as well. Both attorneys agreed that probably wasn't the best way to go with it. So then it comes down to when I talked with Dwayne and one of the selectmen, can we take the money out of contingency? Legally, the contingency fund is set up for you guys to spend however you want. It's for emergencies. This is what it's for. This is an emergency. But we do get into this rabbit hole of we're spending money on something that wasn't appropriated. We're spending it on something that wasn't properly appropriated. And so are we actually using funds properly? And again, if it doesn't pass, if the budget does not pass, we're deeper in a hole than we were before. And what Dwayne was asking for out of this would basically deplete your contingency fund for the whole rest of the year. Because you've got 30,000 in there to try to keep it going, you would pretty much wipe out your contingency within 3 days of enacting your budget. Can the money legally come back out of the account once it passes? That's a question that's kind of up in the air as well. But it appears to me that's your least, other than shutting it down completely, that's your least objectionable way to keep it open. But that decision is entirely up to you guys.
Something you touched on, I want to make, excuse me, something that Dennis just touched on, I want to make clear is there is a split decision on whether contingency can be used at all. One group said that they strongly recommend that we not do that, and the other group said do not do that.
Group meaning lawyers?
Well, so
Legal.
MMA or Branston Shore.
Right.
So Branston Shore was pretty adamant that you not do this. Maine Municipal was, again, this is something that it's your fund, you can do what you want with it, but you're spending it on something that wasn't approved. So that's where you have a potential issue, and I'm not saying that you do, it's just a potential.
The other issue with contingency fund is that it is believed that once you vote to spend that contingency fund, it's gone. It's not like you can fund the community center and take the money back from the community center and put it back into contingency. You voted to spend it, gone. No
I
more.
don't believe that.
Well, it is. Once you spend a budget line, you've spent it.
No, I don't believe
So,
that.
well,
I don't
all
believe-
right, well, let's not get into this discussion now. I want to make sure you've heard all the opinions first. This is not my opinion, these are the opinions that we've heard from professionals that are doing it.
And remember, that was a split opinion.
Yeah, right, so
Okay,
yeah, you
so
have a question.
some of it
Kim.
was pretty clear, some of it's a little fuzzy.
Okay, so I feel like the spirit of the warrant, forget the legalese, but the spirit of the warrant was strongly for the community to support the community center.
Correct.
And so there's that point. We had an email just before this meeting from the director of Parks and Rec to all of the selectmen saying that a week's worth of payroll would be $8,000. So it's a far cry from $30,000. if in 7 days, which would, I don't know if saying it publicly in this meeting can be noticed, but if in 7 days we have a town meeting to vote on this, then that would be maybe a week's and a half worth of labor. If it's approved, the point is moot, right? We don't, because of the spirit of the votes, perhaps we can get a legal opinion that this can be dated retroactively. I don't want to debate that with you guys now. I feel like it's unreasonable to shut them down because what the voters wanted was to fund this.
Correct.
The warrant that we approved as a board, not the board that exists here now, but the board that was here a week ago, approved different language. Somewhere between us approving that language and it getting at the printer, the language was changed. And for that, I take ownership because we as a board, we said, can we take these all as one, and we voted and approved it all as one, thinking it was the same document that we had approved prior, and there's a lesson I learned. I will never, ever do that again. But I think that if we can use those contingency funds, if we have to, that's only if the spirit of the voters does not come back to this room for a special town meeting, then we cross that bridge when we come to it. But in the meantime, it's more than just after school adventures. During this global pandemic, that community center is set up as a remote learning place for students. They're going there during the day instead of school because we have a hybrid learning situation. So it's more than just kids in after school adventures. It's kids who are going there 4 days a week for remote learning opportunities. So all of those parents will have to stay home from work and lose their salaries. Not to mention that the income at the community center will be impacted. It will be really difficult to regain those 2 weeks. And then my last thought on it is that a very large part, I would say it was over $100,000, I might be wrong on this, of our carry forward came from unspent funds due to the pandemic. So like we have a healthy fund balance. We're talking about $8,000 to $10,000, and hopefully this whole thing goes away. Those are my thoughts.
This might be a moot point at this point. Why is the printing company changing language? Like, how did this even happen?
I mean, that's a whole separate discussion.
Right,
So I feel like that's a whole separate
We're happy
discussion.
with that.
And then my other thing is there a way to have a second question at the special town meeting that addresses putting money back into the contingency? Or is there, while we're having that meeting, is there a way to make that possible?
Actually, can you add a question to
Absolutely.
vote 30,000 to?
That's exactly
Good
where I
idea,
was
Sarah.
going with it, Pam. I wasn't being disrespectful to you,
No.
but we run our town.
I'm-
And we can ask the townspeople for
Right.
questions. So no, that's where I was going, Sarah.
Yeah, there's a couple of other ideas that can be floated out as well. So
That would have to be in a different meeting though. We could probably add that to the town meeting that we're having on the 6th. The warrant's already drawn up. We have to sign it and post it tonight in order to get this done.
That's fine.
But that
No,
might
we
be
can-
possible.
So we
it's
could do
possible
it
for a future
Yeah.
meeting,
But
but not,
I agree with Sarah. We can get the money. We can get the money.
well, we can look at how we can get the money, that's for sure. So, yeah, go ahead, Karen.
So there were other issues on that warrant. Apparently the printer changed the amount of money we raised for a fire engine,
Mhm.
right, from 25,000 to 50,000, which was approved by the voters, but not by us. So,
But that doesn't matter.
Do we
because
have to-
what the warrant says really doesn't matter. It's what the voters approved that matters. Now, as far as the fire truck goes,
Well-
yes, they did approve $50,000 for the fire truck. We're not going to spend that, and that issue isn't nearly as bad as this one is.
Yeah.
Because they
but
actually
it's
approved something.
part of a larger issue though. There was, and then a third issue with this warrant. I feel really concerned about like all of these issues on the warrant. And I know that the voters think they approved the community center. So in this case, it does matter what it says on the
Well,
warrant, right?
no, it really doesn't, because it's.
Then if it doesn't matter, why are we here?
Well,
Right.
we're splitting legal hairs here, And that's the problem with this, is because it's getting us into a rabbit hole that we find a difficult way out of. The spirit of the voter, we can go back to the George Bush things where they're looking at ballots and chads, and we just don't want to go there.
Right.
That doesn't seem relevant.
No, so let's just take a deep breath in, long, slow, controlled breath out, and come back to community center question only, because I don't care about the fire truck or the ordinance or any of the other stuff. The only thing we need to think of is the community center, and that's all we're dealing with tonight. I want to make sure we're all calm and sensible as we're talking about this, and we do the right thing. So I'm not going to take another raised hand because I have another point I want to bring up about the community center. Is they are running the after-school program, so there are children there whose parents have paid money to have their children there. They contracted with us to take care of their children. So we are responsible to make sure that at least that part, the children's parts of that center, to me, we are responsible to maintaining that work for those children, because the parents can't just quit their jobs and stay home for the next week or two until this gets figured out. So if nothing else happens there, in my opinion, that at least, if you shut down the whole rest of the community center and you run the children's programs, to me that is the most important thing that needs to be looked at today. So I'll get to you in just a minute. I'm going to let you have your chance. I promise you. As soon as the selectmen are going to beat this like a dead horse, and then we'll let you have your turn, and we'll probably do it again. So I think we have an obligation to these parents and these children. That to me is the priority, because if somebody misses their swim today, it's not going to greatly impact their life. Or they don't get on the treadmill today, it's not going to ruin their month. But these children and their parents have set this as their daycare and their educational purposes, so that has to be protected. And can we all agree on that? Okay, we can all agree that that is really one of the most important things going on here. It's not, to me, the gym or the pool or all the rest of it, but it's what happens with those people who are dependent on this, strongly dependent on this. So another point I want to bring up is all those selectmen are bonded for inadvertent mistakes. If you spend your contingency fund and this budget does not pass, we could be in trouble.
So there is an aspect of the law that says if you knowingly spend money that you shouldn't spend, you can be held personally liable. I don't know if that's ever happened anywhere, but
Good to know.
anyways.
Right. So let me think, was there anything else that we looked at in legal that hasn't been shared yet?
And just to clarify, you said one firm said we should not spend out of contingency, the other one said probably not?
She didn't say no, she strongly recommended against it.
Right.
That was
I didn't say no.
Princeton Shore. MMA said, it is your contingency fund, so yours to do what you.
Maine Municipal says the select board we can spend it on fireworks. It wasn't voted for fireworks, but we can spend it on fireworks, right?
Well, it's
You
for
know,
emergencies, so
well,
we're
right,
going
but
to
it's
consider
for-
fireworks an emergency.
But it's what do you, how do you describe an emergency?
Yeah.
So I would say that this is an emergency situation.
So
I'm not saying we couldn't do it. I just want to make sure you have all of the information up front.
is this 1 week's budget? So if it gets approved on the 17th, that's the end of it?
We have to go through a week.
We just need to fund it?
Yeah.
Because I'm ready to make a motion.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Can I make a you go make the motion.
Yeah.
Well, wait, I want to make sure we have all the discussion
So we have that discussion after the motion.
Yes,
I think that's a.
that's just how we do
It's a
it.
rule.
Right.
So,
Because I'd like to make a motion that we approve $9,000 out of contingency for the rec budget.
Okay.
I'll second that.
What were you gonna say?
Well, as soon as they second a motion, I can no longer speak because I had a question for Dwayne, a couple of questions for Dwayne about different funding
You can,
levels.
Judy
This
can
is,
talk all the
this is
time.
discussion.
You cannot.
Now's the time to discuss.
Now is the time.
Now's the time to discuss, but it's, you've already made the motion with a dollar amount in it.
Somebody can move to amend
Oh,
the
we can.
motion.
So-
Absolutely.
All right, we'll just do that.
So, because that's why I'd like to get the information out first, which is why I said, please let's not do anything until all the information was covered, because there's other questions to be asked and people here have not spoken yet. So, okay, Dwayne,
Yeah,
hi.
how are you?
How was your day?
Oh, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you very kindly did some math and sent us
Yeah.
some numbers. And you sent us numbers for 1 week and for 2 weeks.
1 week is, yep, it's $8,030, that's what I've been averaging, but then you have your health care and your insurance and your retirement on top of that. So I don't have those numbers
Right.
at my disposal, so those are on top of that amount.
Right.
And there are bills outstanding that have been.
And I do have bills outstanding, plus I have about, I think I have 6 bills in my office that add up to the water, I just got the water and sewer bill, so
Blinders.
they're up to 2,600.
Put this good. So, if you reduce services, if you could, you had said in here that you could work at reducing some services to maybe lower this amount. What kind of services could you reduce? And what are you looking at a reduction in the amount?
No, I'm. what
You
do
said
mean?
you, I forget how you said it. I should have. Whether you would work with something. I forget where it is.
I can read the letter if you'd like.
Oh, I've got it right here in front of me. It's just I didn't underline it.
Pam, can I ask Dwayne a question?
Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
Is $9,000 enough?
$9,000 probably wouldn't cover the health insurance and the retirement.
But we just don't know what that,
I just
what
looked
that
at it.
number is.
Right.
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 And just to clarify, if in a week the taxpayers approve it, then those expenses can just be paid in the next pay
Correct.
period. This whole thing is really it could be a non-issue.
And actually,
If it passes, it's a non-issue anyway.
And the
Right.
spirit of the vote makes me feel confident in putting
Right.
it forward. We will
Dwayne,
fill the gym.
Dwayne and I had a conversation on the phone, and there's 16 families out there which are dropping their kids off in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
So there is, in my opinion, there's no way that this can't get funded. It passed by 100 votes. No one in town cares that it was written wrong. What they were appropriating was the community center budget. So if Dwayne feels like I need to amend my motion, that you would like more money, I'm all for doing it. I was padding it a little bit just for other expenses, you
the
know.
only thing that I would recommend, and I only put 2 weeks in here, is because Monday is payroll day for this past week.
Right,
Okay, so right now, we're not funded.
right.
For that week, but this is on
Right.
Thursday, so this budget would have passed in order to get you into the next pay week.
Right.
Right.
But I'm working as a non-funded community center for 4 days next week.
Right.
So would you be able to back pay for that following,
Right.
for that week of?
Once
Okay.
the budget goes through.
That's why
yes.
I had mentioned the 2 weeks.
Okay,
Because
so-
I just wanted to make sure that we were covered. And yes, it would probably, I know I had 2,600 roughly in bills sitting on my desk, plus I had given some to Ellen earlier this week that she had. I don't,
We
I
will,
was,
in my humble opinion, Dwayne, if the center closes, we'll come back and have to come up with a way to pay those bills.
so the center closes, you're gonna have a lot more bills.
No, but that's what I mean. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm not making light of that water bill, but that just needs to
No,
sit.
water, right, no,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have to be paid.
Can we get back to just the straight topic
Yep,
until
sorry.
of something that happens 3 months from now?
Yep, and
So-
actually, those bills can sit.
Okay, so that was the second half of my question from when I was interrupted is, can those bills sit and wait until after an open town
Until
meeting?
after that meeting on
Okay.
Thursday, yes.
So, and that includes the health insurance bills and all of those, those are not gonna, those don't need to be paid tomorrow,
Right,
right?
and they've probably already been paid, they just get taken out.
Okay.
Because
So
they-
essentially what you're looking for is for, your recommendation, my work, is you're actually looking for the $8,030, which is payroll money.
Right.
And then you'll have 4 days before your next pay date submission comes up, and that will be after this open town meeting is voted. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm looking for the payroll costs to be covered.
Right, okay. So
And
that's
that
what I'm
would-
saying, I want to just
and
get
that
it
would
down
keep
to the bones.
The building open.
Right, I want to just
So
get it
that's
down to
it.
the bones, and that keeps the building open as is.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So do you anticipate any issues with anything that's going on there at all? Looking at the operations, oh, I forgot I had a program and I'm paying somebody $1 million to come in and dance for the kids.
I wish.
Yeah, just out there kind of things that when we're stressed, they disappear
No,
out of our
I
heads.
do have a program that is starting next week. You know,
Mhm.
karate is starting, it's its first week back.
Unsinkables.
Right.
Unsinkables is starting, but that is all stuff
That's also after the 18th.
Yeah,
and
that's
can-
all stuff that's, well, the
No,
unsinkable
the
starts
14th.
on Monday, and so does karate.
Can you put it off a week if you have to? Are you paying the people teaching the
No,
programs?
I'm not, they're already, pool staff is already being paid.
Okay,
That's part of that 8,000 that you
okay.
already.
Oh, all right, that's already in there.
Yep.
Oh,
And
okay.
karate is completely separate, I
Okay.
get billed at the end of the session.
So you can't think of anything that you haven't anticipated that you touched on in this letter that might come back and bite any of us? Because we've all had enough surprises
I've had enough surprises already.
for the whole year, right? Okay.
Yes. Especially.
So,
the
any comments from anyone else in Todd?
Talks to the town of Scotts. The only thing I thought about was, yeah, you've got unfunded liabilities, but I agree with Sam, the intent of the article, would we be sitting here is to pass, so. But my question was, or thought was, the roof CIP article passed for Parks and Rec, so you can use those funds rather than contingency.
No, you cannot. They were appropriated strictly for the
For a
roof. They
roof.
have to be used for the roof.
Only.
That was my question.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
stinks.
I did ask that question today too.
I will point out, this is slightly off topic, which I've asked you all not to do, but I will point out that this is why on the older warrants, when I was first on the board, we had a question that allowed the town to operate a
The J
department
article.
for
Absolutely.
3/12 of a year in case a budget did not pass.
Can we put
And
that-
it has been taken off the warrant, and I would like to see that go right back on, because this is the kind of mess you're in when you don't look out for the contingencies of life.
I'd asked for that article to be put
Okay.
on and it's failed, so no.
Well,
I want to put it back.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in the budget process, but this is exactly the circumstances that we land in when that question has disappeared. People ask, why would you put that on there? This is why you would put this on here. Okay, so,
The other reason you put it on there is because if this had failed,
You gotta close the community center.
well, if this,
But you
if
need
this
more
article
funding
had
to close
failed,
the
yeah,
the way it's written, how would the reaction be on that? That's,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
you'd have been in the same, especially with
I'd
COVID,
be
we're
right
3
here.
months behind in paying everything anyway.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No,
you need that
it's,
time.
it's a
To close
mess.
it, right?
Right, and that's why you build that time in there.
Yeah.
So there's my hobby first.
And if I could, so in a normal budget year, you probably would have had a couple of weeks worth of operating funds left anyways, to deal with this, because this is not a normal year, and once everything, if the article had failed at the meeting this year, it was just done. There's no contingency, there's no anything that we can fall back on,
Shut
because
the
they
door and lock it.
just say they just didn't want it. So, I mean, this is a little bit of a different year.
Okay.
And Kim, if
Go ahead.
As far as the ballots, we are definitely holding this ballot company accountable for this. Linda and I were on the phone with him today. We're figuring out what this is costing us, and we are getting that money out of them.
Yeah, because to be clear, the language on the ballot that was sent to the printing company was correct.
It was.
Yeah.
I
It
know it
was correct.
I
The
know.
word raise and appropriate was on that question. They did not print it correctly.
And they just decided to take that off.
And
You
So
can't, I mean, they would have had to manually do it.
somebody
Somebody did that.
typoed or somebody copied and pasted something. And I don't know what they did, but the information sent to them was correct. Just so everyone is very clear, this is nothing that anyone in the town office did, this is nothing that anyone on the board did, this is nothing that happened locally in Wiscasset. This is absolutely just a mistake. Somebody hit a keystroke wrong and this is what happened. So, having said that, is there any more questions? Are there any more discussion on just whether or not to fund $9,000 to the community center?
Just a clarification, this will be an actual ballot rather than a meeting, or?
no, this is an open
This is
town
an open town
Open
meeting.
town meeting.
The number of people allowed in the building will show up in the building, and that's all who can get in there, and they can raise hands.
Can we do it in the rec?
Yes, we're gonna do it right.
We'll do it
yes.
in the rec.
We'll do it in the rec. and-
It'll be funded that day.
And we may end up, you know, there may be some, if there's overflow, people may have to stand outside, but I've already talked to Dwayne about how we
Right.
can handle that, so.
We can have a ballot clerk count hands outside
We
if
could,
necessary.
we can make that happen.
Okay, so we're clear on how that's going to work. All right, so there is a motion on the floor. It was moved by Jeff. Am I correct?
Yes.
Moved by Jeff? Jeff moved to spend $9,000 of contingency money to support the Wiscasset Community Center until after the town meeting, open town meeting. So it's been moved by Jeff, seconded by Kim. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. The only thing I want to add to that is to make sure that there's 9,000 is enough to cover the health, medical, and retirement. Because if it's not, then how's that going to mess up payroll?
What we vote right now is what it's gonna be.
Right.
Okay,
So I'm just wondering, do you just vote with not a number, but just
We'll come-
enough to cover
If-
salary?
If we need more money, we'll come back and get it for you,
We'll fix
Dwayne.
it.
We just don't have that number.
yeah.
Do we have any sense
No.
of the
Yeah.
range? I mean, are we talking 1,000 dollars?
You can probably figure like 30%.
So
if
I
his-
would
If his
not-
payroll is $8,000, it's probably another $2,400, $2,500.
Because I would not be willing, I would not be willing to vote a motion with an open number.
Okay.
I think that's
Actually,
irresponsible.
Todd just made a good point. You've probably already sent that money for the health insurance and everything at the beginning of the month, and you don't have to send that away
It's a
right away.
liability.
It's a
Right.
liability, period.
That's
That's right.
probably true, but without Kathy here to know that for sure, I think.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably-
Right, okay? So the motion's on the floor, discussion is over. The motion, it's been moved and seconded to spend $9,000 of selectmen's contingency funds to the Wiscasset Community Center. Okay, calling for a vote, all in favor? 5. Having a full 5 vote, there are none opposed and no abstentions, the motion carries.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I
No,
don't want to walk out the door and then.
No, you don't. You know better than that. You know, you raise them right, and what do they do? The kids. Okay, so, you want to pass that around and everyone can sign?
Well, you need a motion, we need to vote on this.
Okay, that's right. So the next is, you don't have that on.
It's a motion to have the meeting.
You didn't have it on the agenda.
Well, because we,
Yeah. So, I need a motion to hold a special open town, let's write it down. Motion to hold an open town meeting on, is that a
September
Thursday? Is that a Thursday?
7th. No, yes, a Thursday.
It's on Thursday, September 17,
6 p.m.
at 6 p.m. The purpose of the meeting, of the open town meeting, is to raise and appropriate $829,889 for Parks and Recreation Department.
It's now 9,000.
No, it's not.
No, this
This
is
is for the
this is for
full
the full
amount,
line.
the full.
This is the full line.
This is the full amount, raise and appropriate. Okay, so will someone?
So moved.
Second.
Jeff moved, Kim seconded, it's a duo that's working tonight.
It's gonna get hot in here.
Yeah, it is.
It's stuffy. So, any discussion, any questions? Calling for a vote, all in favor? 5-0, seeing a full count of 5, there are no votes and no abstention, the motion carries. I will now sign this paper. And as soon as the last person has signed this paper, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. So get ready to move it again, Jeff.
All righty.
And we're gonna look into a future town meeting, if we can put on moving money back into.
That will be, yeah, that will be on the next, yes, Gordon.
I'd like to thank you all for your support in this. I really would.
Oh,
Thank you
no,
very
of
much.
course.
Dennis, thank you for today.
Oh,
It was an interesting day to say the least.
I know
Didn't start
Dennis.
out too well, but
Yeah,
I am going to send out an email blast and text blast to all of our members
good.
to reassure them that we are not closed.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
we
Dennis,
do have a public meeting coming up next Thursday.
You bet.
Dennis has spent the entire day on nothing but making sure that we had the correct information for this meeting tonight. And the selectmen each have spent quite a bit of time through the day, each of us I know, trying to figure out
bringing their hands.
how to get the square peg into the round hole.
Yep.
So we took this very seriously, and we wanted to make sure we did it right and that we were harmonious in our agreements, which
And I
we almost,
appreciate that.
we pretty well are. So I appreciate everybody's hard work today.
Thank
That
you.
was,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
let you right
appreciate.
I'm gonna let you know right now that I know there's a bunch of parents that are very happy. And also a lot of members that are happy because I have reservations from right up through the end of next week. So
Yeah.
we're doing reservations out, 2 weeks at a time, so we're,
Yeah. I also want to thank the board members for scrambling together and coming in for a meeting a second night in a row. It's, you gotta know.
Please,
Thank
let's not make it happen.
you very much. Thank
I'll
you
make
very
a motion
much.
to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor? 5-0, we are out of business. It is 6:41.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what are we meeting about tomorrow?
You're not meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow is